still I try. No rest for cross chops in my mind. On my own, here we go.
November 21, 2002, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Ascot Room with some 41. Phil, Tim and I wake up with sore throats and aching brains. The drive to Minneapolis is pretty long and I sleep most of the way. Occasionally I wake up and try not to puke, but by the end I'm starting to feel a little better. It turns out, in fact, that the drive is way longer than everyone told us, so we get to Minneapolis pretty late. To compound the problem, we get wickedly lost and take about 45 minutes to actually find the club. To compound the problem again, it turns out that we're on an hour earlier than we thought, so by the time we make it to the back of the venue it's a mad dash to unload our gear out of the van and onto the stage. Needless to say, it's a pretty frazzled set, but the pressure seems to work to our advantage. The crowd is really stoked, even though none of them know who we are. There's even someone there with a Ween shirt on who really appreciates our Dina cover. Mike breaks about 50 strings, but Brian, some 41 guitar tech, helps out and it doesn't phase the show too badly. Some's got to fly out to LA right after the show to do Mad TV, so we've got to load our gear back into the van during their set to get it out of their way. The whole show turns out to be one of the fastest loads of our entire lives. I finally get to wander out into the club afterwards to check out where we just played. It's a pretty cool place resembling something out of The Lord of the Rings, decorated with trees and a fountain. It turns out that Prince owns the place. After some set they pack up to go and wish them luck on the show tomorrow. I asked Dave what it was like playing Saturday Night Live, something that, to me, sounds like the most terrifying thing possible. James packs up the merch and we head out the front to load it into the trailer, only to discover that the temperature's dropped about 100 degrees. There are a bunch of kids waiting outside, most of whom are dressed in t-shirts, seemingly oblivious to the nightmarish Arctic wind. We make the quick drive over to the hotel to check in. One of our rooms smells like fresh, warm puke, but the smell fades after about 5 minutes of sitting there. The trick is not to leave and re-enter. James, Mike and Matt C make ambitious plans to go out on the town, but the combination of the city's frigid temperature, a couple of rounds of Jim Beam and the soothing smell of bath put a quick and sleepy end to them. From Mikey's perspective.
Well, I think last night was the best show so far, if you could get past all the string breaking. Count 'em, 2 strings, because 1 is never enough. That can be attributed to the third outing for the SIT Jazz Lights. We got to the club 30 minutes before set time, so I didn't have time to change them. It still was the best set so far. The show was over early, so after leaving the club starving and pretty lightheaded thanks to the beers on an empty stomach, we checked into the hotel, watched the end of the basketball game, Dallas beat Houston, and split to get a bite. By that time I was so wrecked there was no way I was going to even attempt a beer with supper. I was the only one to opt for such. The food was good, but then anything would have been good at this point. It was after 10 by the time we got back to the hotel. I decided going out wasn't such a good idea, even though I was totally set on it when we were at the club. But my drowsy blindness superseded meeting up with the Minneapolis locals that told us the place to be on a Thursday night, free drinks for guys at Dubs. The prospects of free drinks seemed really appealing at the time, but I had drunk enough and I needed to shut down. And I sure did. Phil was putting cigarettes under my nose while Matt snapped pictures. Fuckers. The hotel room that Matt, TRM and Tim slept in reeked like puke. The rest of us slept in the room that was ridiculously hot. It was so hot that at 2 in the morning, after waking up to down about 9 glasses of water to replenish from all the sweat, James cracked the window. The Minneapolis crisp night air rolled into the room, settling the heat and putting us all into comas. It was freezing cold in the morning though, making me want to stay in bed. After closing the window and finally getting up, showering and whatnot, James and I went to look for some tea for poor sick Phil. To our delight, there was a place in the lobby. There were all kinds of nice things to eat there and nobody to take your money for doing it, so I ran upstairs to get the rest of the crew. I'm still full. I had to try everything.
It don't matter if you're by my side.